Season 9, Episode 31, 379 of the Decoded Podcast. We're getting close to 412. I can't wait to hit the number.
412.
It's the ultimate, bro. 412.
What is that?
I don't know. Just I like that number.
Yeah.
So I was
It's
like,
on-
hey, I look today, I'm like 379. I can't wait until we get to 412.
I like it. None better than the other. None better than the other.
Can I tell a story?
Yeah, launch us with a story for sure.
Okay, here we go. Here's the launch. Don't become a principal, and I'll tell you why. You ready? Don't do it.
Wait,
It'll ruin your life.
Is this to the universe? This isn't a story for me. I don't think.
This is a story for anybody interested in becoming a principal.
Kids of all ages.
Kids of all ages, gender, preference, whatever you want, whoever you are.
There's something in me that hopes that there's a big twist to this, but I think by the end of it, there's no twist. It's just truth.
Well,
all truth, no twist.
You'll tell me. So I start with don't do it. Don't become a principal. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Story time now. Okay.
Here we go. Gather around.
Hey, good morning, Gary. Gary's a character in this story.
Don't
do it. Gary did it. So now Gary's done. Okay. And if my principal hears this, he'll be so sad to hear me say, don't do it. Don't become a principal.
Here's the thing. Okay. So can I do the introduction to your book on this?
Go for it.
So, because you can still do your story. Absolutely. You and I, this journey, this discussion, I wouldn't say it's a hot topic, but you and I have been looking very closely at this type of work, both as a job isolated from the whole, also as a job integrated into the whole. We've looked at it from leadership perspective. We've looked at it from lifestyle perspective. We've looked at it from personal psychology perspective, as in elements of this job and how it sort of falls in line with parts of us. Some of those parts good, some of those parts bad. None were neutral. I don't think we had any neutral grounding on this. It always fell into a kind of a polarizing category. So what I appreciate is that I'm hoping as I gather around the hearth here and you're about to launch this story, that there's an element of this that has a little bit of new thinking to it, or something about it that's just a kind of a slightly different perspective, or there's an equal sign. And what I mean by that is that the conversations that we've had, this is kind of like not the cherry on top, but it's kind of like, and this is why. And this is why. All that being said, we both have always reserved anywhere from 1% to 5% that we could back this out again. You and I have both talked about little elements of this. I've started to do designate work. So that in itself is it's a bit of a hat tip to the whole idea, at least. The whole idea isn't shut out. So with that being said, grab yourself a tea, snuggle up close, be quiet, shh, quiet hands. Daddy Chidiac's going to tell a story.
Crisscross applesauce, get comfortable.
I went to the carpet.
Chidiac's telling a story. I really appreciate what you just said because I've been thinking about it again lately. And the posting came out for elementary vice principal pool.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it and I looked up my watch to check the date, and I don't think I can make the timeline this time around, but I may have, I'm sure I told you, and I think Gary knows, my principal knows, that I have a career plan and it's not looking so hot anymore. So it's time to maybe shift gears. I have ideas. I'd like to think I want to do certain things before the end of my formal career as an educator. And it's just not looking promising, my first goal. So you shift gears, right? So we'll see. But anyway, so that's I really appreciate you saying at the end of that, you're like, hey, we still reserve the right to come back to it. And I think that's part of discerning for me. It's part of discerning what I want to do, how I want to do it. So anyway, and whether the universe and the system wants me to do it, right? I could put my name in and people could just look and be like, you're not what we're looking for. Okay, check that off and move on to the next maybe goal or whatever's in sight. So here's the story. Yesterday morning, early in the morning, old man early. I'm doing my stuff around the house and I think, okay, I got to get the car into the shop right after school today to get some stuff worked on my car. And I think, oh wow, the garage I'm going to is literally down the street from Gary's school. So I wonder if Gary can meet up for a, a, a drink and some storytelling at the Starbucks right next to the garage. That'd be what an epic way to end a Friday, right? And the end of the week, meet up with Gary, have a bevy, chat a little bit. Rochelle says she completely understands, same feeling. Okay. I'm starting to normalize this feeling. Before, when I was thinking more linear, I was like, is this problematic? No, nothing's problematic because we're living our lives. We're living our lives. And so my life involves there's always a percentage of reserving to switch gears if you need to. That's we're humans. We grow, we learn, we develop, we unlearn, we relearn. So I text Gary. I don't know, maybe it was like 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, yo, G, um, I'm gonna be dropping my car off at this time today. You wanna get together at the Starbucks down the street from your school before you venture home to live your life and before I venture home to live mine? Gary responds, yes. As I imagine Gary would, unless he had something going on. He's like, yeah, yeah, let's do it. Great. So this launches me out of the house yesterday. I'm pumped, right? I'm like, I'm gonna get to meet with Gary. So that takes a little bit of the sting out of how much the car repairs might cost. You know what I mean?
Mhm,
Oh,
mhm.
the car off, you know, an hour later, they could tell me that I owe them a couple of $100. So I'm looking forward to talking to Gary about some experiences this week, having a nice cold bevy, and just chilling. What a way to end the week. And then Decoded podcast on Saturday morning. So school ends. I make sure I'm ready for Monday morning, jump in the car, go to the garage. My appointment was for 3 o'clock, but I got to the garage at like 2:45, something like that. So I dropped the car off and they're like, we're running behind. I'm like, I don't care. I'm going to be at the Starbucks next door with my man, Gary. You take your time. It's all yours until closing time because they knew I needed it back. So take your time, man. I'm going to be with Gary. Gary and I could talk for hours. I leave the garage. I walk into Starbucks, pull out my phone, get the app open, and I'm like, the world is my oyster, right? Like, I'm going to splurge. I'm going to get myself a drink I never get. I order the drink, and then I get a text from Gary. I don't think I'm going to make it. And I'm like, oh, a little bit of sadness creeps in. But I'm like, Gary doesn't operate like this. So something's going on, right? Gary's not like, oh, I don't feel like going. I'm not going. That's not Gary.
Mhm, mhm.
That's not the Gary I know. It could very well be the Gary he is. I don't know. So I text back and I'm like, you're not coming at all? Like, I can understand if you're late. No problem. Right. And he goes, unsure.
Mhm.
You
Something's
know,
going down.
you know why Gary couldn't come meet with me at Starbucks yesterday after school?
Something's going down.
Shit hit the fan at school. All hands on deck.
Mhm,
An administrator. Gary
mhm,
had to deal with the situation.
mhm,
Kids, don't become an administrator because if you do, you're not going to be able to leave work after school and meet with me to have a bevy and end your week on a solid note. The end. Go back to your desks, take out your writing, and continue on as I call you up to the kidney-shaped table to meet with me for some assessment. There's a story.
So,
Don't do it. Don't become a principal.
so the parts of this, right? Because you and I are both we're cheeky. Fine, let's be cheeky, but we're also responsible storytellers. That's the thing, right? We don't come into this ham-handed. There's it can sound like shade. This ain't no shade. I think this is just a lucid observation on the life of someone who is in upper leadership. Like that's what it is. Absolutely lucid. So what it becomes is, I think, have there's this weird kind of we've talked about this before. The values that are at the core of somebody wanting to take on more responsibility, to sort of take on deeper levels of leadership. I think the people that are willing to do that work, the ones that I've met, the ones that I've met, and then the ones that I've decided to surround myself with, regardless of what their values going in, there's a trading post halfway through where you might not realize it, but as you sort of go through the trading post, you actually have to sell off or adjust some of those values. You don't get to bring all of your valuables with you. You have to kind of cash them in, and then you get on the other side and you realize to hang on to some of those things that you thought the job was going to be, you can only deal with what the job is. And that reality of not being able to come and hang out with you, I will say on one note, I could go really sort of like edge on this and say, it's hard. It could be hard to maintain. No, I will say this. There's a lot of work that has to be done to maintain relationships, just in general. And I think that close relationships, you find a way, right? You find a way. Momentary relationships probably suffer, like some of the things that aren't strong, because you just won't have time. You won't have the time. You won't have the recovery time. There'll be certain people that you just won't get to see anymore. Because you can't book the time. And when you do need time, if you have a family, you got to be with them. You have some close relationships. You have other life responsibilities to take care of. That's right. I would say it is a job. Teaching can be a job that the individual can manage on their own for the most part. It can be like a 95, maybe even 97.3, as in when you're a teacher, you actually can have a pretty good handle on 95% of the actual impact that becoming a teacher is. From my observation, when you become an administrator, I would slide that almost to 40, 35%. And then there's this 65% of impact and external things that constantly have control over you. Like the stuff on a Friday. And part of it is, it's just an observation. So you have to, I think, I don't know if I would go as far as to say, don't become a principal, but I would definitely say, I know exactly why I won't. And it's for similar reasons to what just happened with you just there. Like that's one of the things, right? And I know some of the things that made me want to go into it in the first place were not, there was no valor there. I was actually doing it because I wanted to kind of ascend, and I had the idea that it was a promotion. And then when I laid what the promotion would have been up against, as I came to understand my needs for quality of life, I'm like, that promotion doesn't measure up. The promotion is great if I never have to deal with my family again. The promotion is great if I don't want to be able to ably rely on time to do hobbies and other things. The job is great if I'm single and I don't ever have to. Remember, we went through this phase of watching other individuals that were principals posting up online saying things like, I really have to give thanks to my spouse for being such a patient spouse. And you and I were just like, what? What? You're openly saying that you can't do the job unless your spouse takes care of everything else. And I think that for me, it was kind of a transformational moment. I think it was a little bit for you too, because we kind of both looked at it with a little bit of a side eye. And one, because I think it was the inside being said out loud, something that we kind of knew. But I think the second part of it is like a little bit of a question: is it really like that? And then we came out the other side like it is kind of like that. It is a little bit like that. Um, I will also say I don't know Gary as well as you are, as well as you do. I'm glad Gary's the one that was there to take care of that. I like the dude is awesome. I can totally fall in love with the guy. He would be a great colleague. Seems like a super sweet guy, head on his shoulders. Have we have similar backgrounds in the stuff that he and I have worked in. So I get it. So I'm glad he was the guy. I'm absolutely glad, not only for the school, for whatever families were involved, for the system. I mean, who knows? Maybe he's cracking off and he's doing crazy now, but I don't think so. But for my measure, I'm glad he was the guy. I'm glad he was the guy that had to stay back and couldn't go for coffee with you. Because if the shit was going down, something happened. Um, I do believe that the system, the school, the families would have been worse off for anyone any lesser than him being involved. But there's a cost. There's a cost to being that guy, that girl, that person.
So, like you said, sometimes we are cheeky, and I am being cheeky because I was, selfishly, I was like, this sucks. And I saved like I sent this to Gary. I'm like, the chair's waiting for you, Gary. It's
Now you
waiting.
could have brought something to him. You could have brought something over to him.
I like physically.
Yeah, drive it over.
Well, I wouldn't. By the time I went to drive over, he'd probably be gone.
Maybe, maybe.
Well, I don't think he was there that long, and
Okay.
there was my well, who knows? That's a good point, but I had things to do after, like, I didn't have all night. There's my drink, and this so if we continue cheeky for a minute,
Go cheeky.
I'm sitting in this place, right? And I'm like, "That chair's for Gary," and people were eyeing that chair, and I said, "You can't have the chair. That's for Gary." And even if Gary I texted Gary and I said I raised one of the drinks to him. So you can imagine I was surrounded by university students. I've got this prime real estate in Starbucks. I've got my beautiful drink and that chair's just there for Gary. And I told
Mhm.
I so imagine watching this old dude sitting there with a chair across from him that other people want that they can't have. And before I take my sip, I do one of these. I sip. They're like, "What the F is wrong with that guy?" That's Gary's spot. So yes, there is the cheeky. And on a serious note, I completely agree with you. The fact that Gary had to stay back, wanted to stay back, whatever Gary wanted to do or did, it's good for whoever was part of this situation. Because I agree with you, Gary. I think Gary's a good guy. And I think the way he operates is like care and compassion first. So whatever had to be dealt with, it's good that Gary dealt with it. And yeah, I was sad that I couldn't see my buddy after work on a Friday, but I got to leave my work and nobody was going to hold me back. I had an appointment and I'm not running the place. So if something hits the fan and you need me, it'll have to wait because I don't run the place. And as far as I see, nothing I do needs to be dealt with ASAP the way that maybe Gary had to deal with whatever yesterday. Unless then some kind of crazy like FNCS type thing. I don't
Mhm.
you don't need me. And I'm not staying. Now, if I were a principal, that'd be different. But I'm not a principal. So I'm living within my umbrella of educator, and I know my role in my building, and all that to say, Gary, I had a spot for you. I raised my cup to you a couple of times. These poor university kids were eyeballing me like, "What is this guy doing?" And I don't care because I was just living. I was enjoying my time. Good point. When my car was done, I could have texted Gary and I could have, but that was never Gary was scheduled into my life, and then after that timeline, other things were scheduled into my life that I wanted to go and deal with and work through. So, but that's a good one. That's a good one. If I was supposed to meet Gary and I had a car, maybe I could have gone to his school, but then just to drop the drink off because maybe Gary's making calls and he's dealing with people. So I can't sit there and be like, "Yo, Gary, I'm here to hang while you're still working." That probably wouldn't have worked out. But anyway, cheeky, don't do it. Don't become an administrator. Serious side, if you're my friend and I'm willing to take my time to have coffee with you, and then you got to do what you got to do, right?
Mhm.
And there's not a long list of people I'm going to hang out with or want to. So there it is. There's my story. I can change my thing now from don't do it. But can we move to something? I guess I want to say it's not as serious, but it kind of still is. Can I move to something else?
Of course.
I said no to somebody this week and they looked at me like I had four heads. I said no. And I didn't explain myself, and I
Mhm.
didn't ask them if they were okay, and I just said no. And I said no for two reasons. Reason number one, what I wasn't even being asked. I was kind of being told to do something. I did not appreciate how I was being spoken to. I did not appreciate it. It didn't sit well with me. Number one. Number two, I was being told to do somebody else's job. No. Now, the no was because I was in the middle of doing my job in an intense fashion, right?
Mhm.
Like at that particular time, I was in a place where I had a job to do, and there's no choice. That's where I'm supposed to be. That's the job I'm supposed to do during that time. Number
Mhm.
one. Number two, in the middle of executing my responsibilities, it was a little, if you were to look in the room, it didn't look like chaos. But if you were to look in my head, it was chaos
Okay.
because the
Like
kids
you're working a problem or
I was
working an
I was
issue.
working several problems,
Yeah, got you.
and I maybe the problem's not the right word. I was engaged with 3 different things at one time because
I
that's
think the
what
word problem can be positive. I think there is a neutral space for it. Yeah.
fair
Hey,
enough.
yeah, for sure. I get it. If I mean, it's not judgment, it's a noun, right?
Right.
It's just a noun. This is a problem.
Yes.
Problem to be solved, worked on, thought through. Yeah.
I was engaged with several things at one time, and I had
Mhm.
no well, I did have a choice. I could not engage, but then I think it would have caused students to become dysregulated, and that would have led to more problems, bigger problems perhaps. So, I was engaged. I was working with 3 different students on 3 different things, and they all required I was trying to meet their needs. I was trying to provide them with their accommodations, and it took all my bandwidth. So there was no room in the CPU to open up any other windows. I had like 10 windows open and I couldn't keep up, right? So I was doing that, and then this person who it seems like, they do what they want when they want, how they want, which is up to them. But then when you bring it and involve me, then we got a problem because I didn't ask for it, and you can't just expect me to drop everything I'm doing for your stuff. I don't think that's cool. So anyway, so as I'm patrolling, this person says, "Oh, I need you to do this. And I looked at them and I said, I'm not doing that. No. And then I turned around and I kept going and I kept working. Now, when I was done with those three students, and they all started together and they all ended together and they left. Then I could close some of the windows and I had more capacity to deal. Now I had to make a choice, because now it's like, okay, that's finished. That was my priority. What do I do next? Okay, well, I could see that for this person who made this request of me, that it's kind of a high priority thing. It's very high for them. It's not that high for me, but I can put other things aside to help them now. And so then I engaged with the activity that they had told me to do. And at this point, I had decided that I was happy to help. So it's no longer, I wasn't doing it because somebody told me to do it. I was doing it because someone needed a hand. And at that point, I was happy to assist because it was on my terms. So I did what they requested, which was a little bit of a gong show request. But I took a block of time and I went through the motions. And then what I did was I sent an email to them telling them I engaged and these are the results. And now I'm walking away. You asked for help. This is the time I can give you to help. And 80% of it is a green light and 20% of it is a red light, but I'm not giving it any more of my time. You do whatever you want with that. But this situation was observed by somebody in the room, and they made a point to comment to me about it after, and they said to me, they were like, first of all, good for you for knowing what your priorities were at that moment in time. I said, thanks. They said, I'm sorry that had to happen to you. And I'm like, thank you. And they're like, but I'm really impressed with how you just looked at the person and said it's not happening. And then you didn't justify, you didn't wait for a response, you just went back to work. And I was like, yeah, thanks. It may have come off. I don't know how it came off, and I'm not concerned with how it came off. I don't appreciate being treated a certain way. But here's the beauty in it, because for the rest of the day, when I felt like dropping a hammer on somebody, I took a step back and thought, somebody did that to me this morning. I think, and I did not feel very good about how that was done. So I'm going, even though I so badly want to operate that way, I'm not going to.
Mhm.
And so for the rest of the day, there was a handful of moments where I was presented with a situation and I just wanted to not lash out, but like be very straightforward with my response. And I didn't. I slowed down, I stopped, and I did like a little bit of buffer. And then I came into, by the way, you're not in uniform. Like, you don't have one piece of uniform on. You can't stay in here like that. So
Mhm.
my ears are wide open, so is my heart. So tell me your story. Why aren't you in uniform? Da 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 da. Go get into uniform. Da 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 da. And then the because what I want to do is be like, leave and get into uniform. That's not a good way to talk to people, right? I don't want to talk to people like that unless I have a really good relationship and I can and they're not going to take offense, but I don't want to do that to a kid and have them lose their shit. And I didn't lose my shit, but I'm also 49 years old. So anyway, I just wanted to share that was, I loved that moment. No, I'm not doing it. Gone. Get back to work, Chidiac. Do your thing. And that person knew enough to back off. They did not. They did whatever and then they left. They didn't try to bark orders or try to convince me or whatever. That would have probably made me laugh because they're in no position to do that with me.
Mhm.
And even if they were, I'd be like, what kind of leader are you right now? You're the leader. Stop and think about how you're treating me. Is that what you want to model for me in my leadership? Like, I'll go there if I have to. If we're gonna have that conversation, I'm happy to have that conversation. It was great. No, it was awesome, bro, because I like to explain. I wanna explain. I feel like, little Roland has never been heard, and that's maybe why adult Roland wants to constantly explain himself to people. I wasn't explaining myself to anybody. I was just doing my job. That's the no story.
Had a couple moments like that this week. You bring it to mind where students ask to go to the bathroom and I just say no and I walk away. I don't do the in a minute when Mikey comes back or after the lesson. I just say no. And I wait for them to come back again. I think in some ways maybe I'm just test driving that as a full sentence. Um, and sometimes the student is actually framing it like, "Is it okay if I go to the bathroom?" Like they're asking, respectful, whatever. And then others, they're sort of like, kind of walk up and they kind of point towards the door and they're like, "Bathroom." And sometimes I do say, "Yeah, it's over there," because it's not a full sentence. So I kind of force them to express their needs in a little bit more articulate fashion. But yeah, I was test driving the no a few times this past week to that, just point blank, no, no, no bathroom. Now, some of the kids, there's some sort of conditions on them that they don't get bathroom breaks, so they're always just like tapping at the window, and for reasons that are just uh, academic and social reasons why admin and others have said you can use bathroom between classes. You don't get to wander during. Um, but more back to my tactic, just saying no to them has a certain. There is it's amazing how much like you can do a whole lot of talking and justify it, but there is something very clarifying about just saying no, and that is the answer. So good for you for test driving it.
Thanks. I
Yeah.
I don't know, man. This like I said, I I'm happy to help people. I think that's what I do all day. I'm helping people. I feel like that's what I do. I just help. Um but I was like little Roland didn't like being told to do somebody else's job in the way it was done. I didn't like
Mhm.
it. Didn't feel nice. And and yeah, these kids were really pressing me, man. The kids in the room, they were like somebody said to me, somebody acknowledged, "Hey, I was in the room and I saw there was only 5 people, but you were literally running between the 5." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, that's why I appreciate, like, these 5, like, loaded IEPs, like Scribe and this and that." And it's like, I say to them, because they get a little bit like, "Hey, Mr. Chidiac, can you come back?" I'm like, "Dude, the phone just rang. I gotta get it." Like, that's yes, I'm coming back. And I'm happy to tell your teacher, yeah, you were in here for 40 minutes, but in that 40 minutes, I may have gotten a solid 7 or 8 with you working, right? Because there are other people, there's other things. Um, I think sometimes teachers, they don't get that. That makes me laugh. The teachers that are like, well, he was in there for the whole period. He didn't get that assignment done. I'm like, no. Well, and then they want to know why, right? They're like, well, what's going on in there? Are you doing anything in there? Well, yeah, I am, but I'm not gonna explain myself to you. You can send them back tomorrow if you like, or you don't have to. That's your call. And if you wanna have
Mhm.
a conversation, I'm happy to engage, but it's funny. I sent so and so. Did they do anything? I don't know, because they were the least of the issues I had to deal with in this room at this time today. I don't know. They looked like they were working. They might not have been. But mental note, right? Then the kid comes in the next day and I'm like, "Yeah, yesterday your teacher called. Like, were you just killing time? Because if you did that yesterday, then there's no time for that today. You
Yeah.
got work to do." Like and that's I the kids are this is the cool thing when I'm in the zone like that, it throws them off because I think they think I don't know. So like a kid came in the other day and I said to them, "Where's your phone?" And they're like, "Right here." I said, "Well, when you were in here yesterday, you spent most of the time on your phone, and I couldn't get to you. So today, I'm here. We're together. If I see you on that phone more than this many times without doing any work, then it's going out the window." And then this is the joke. So all the regulars in the room laugh because there is no window in my room. So they're like, there's no window. He can't toss it out the window. But I'm like, I know you were on your phone for most of the time yesterday. And yeah, it was kind of my problem that I didn't deal with it, but I'm dealing with it now. So if you're going to spend time on your phone today, then you're going back to class. You don't want to work. And being in here is like a message to everybody that you're going to do something. And if I'm caught up with other things and I can't micromanage you, I know you're on your phone. You're not going to do that again today. And if you are, then you're not coming back. And they're like, oh, okay, okay. Well, I'm like, then they start giving, I'm like, just know that you can't spend the whole time on your phone. You did that yesterday. And I paid attention. I just couldn't deal with it. I'm dealing with it now. And I find most kids are pretty good. They're like, okay, yeah, mea culpa. I'll do this and this today. And I'm like, okay. And then I micromanage them. And then I can tell their teacher, yeah, I micromanaged Jimmy today. He got I saw him submit some work. Now, this makes me laugh all the time. Is it to like a level B standard? Is it meeting expectations? Maybe not. But, as I'm interacting with Jimmy, it's funny. I catch myself saying, well, you could do it like that, but you got a bunch of spelling mistakes. It's not in paragraph form. Like, this is what your instructions are asking you to do, and you're just wanting to get it done. So I'm like, you're on the right, you got the right idea, but your presentation of your work doesn't meet expectations. Oh, well, Mr. C, I got work to do. And I'm like, I'm just telling you that what you're going to submit, you think, oh, I'm done, I'm going to get a good mark. No, you're not, because what you're submitting doesn't meet expectation. You'll probably pass. So I do this lecture with a lot of them all the time, and I just walk away laughing because I'm like, well, this is why Jimmy's here, why Jimmy's not in the room, because
Mhm.
Jimmy struggles with X, Y, and Z. And sometimes people think that because they're with me, I'm going to solve all the problems. It's like, I'm a problem solver and I'm a helper, but I can't solve all the problems. And some kids don't want their problems solved, and they don't
They
even
do
see it as
not.
a problem.
They
They're
do
just
not.
like,
That's yeah. They don't. Yeah.
I'm here. I'm supposed
They
to get
beg
this
to
done.
differ.
I'm getting it done. Yeah.
It's the beg to differ.
Beg to differ. But so
Yeah.
anyway, it's I thought you'd appreciate the no. And I'd
Yeah.
love to hear from Gary and Rochelle if they're interested in sharing. How would, like, Gary, you're in a position of responsibility now. And I don't think Gary's walking up to people telling them you're doing this now. Like, I don't think that's Gary's style, but I'd love to hear from you two. When I go to somebody, I don't ever tell people you're gonna do this now. I'm like, yo, I need some help. This is my situation. I would appreciate it if you do this for me, or could you show me how, or could you tell me who to talk to? I got to fix this. And then I find usually most people are like, oh, I can help with that. I'll do this, or I'll show you this. But I don't think I go up to people and I say, you're going to do this now. Like, I just don't think I do that. And I've done it to kids. I'm like, you've had 8,000 chances. So now you're going to do this, right? That's a different situation. I'm not dealing with an adult. I'm not dealing with a colleague. I'm not power over. I'd love to hear from Gary and Rochelle if how they feel about being told what to do and that they have to do something right away. I hope
That's how it.
nobody talks to them like that,
Well, that's how it does come down from supers.
but if they
It.
have any type of emotional intelligence, they may do it in a way that, hey, these reports have to be done by this day. Like, they don't,
mm,
if somebody's calling you saying, yo, this report needs to be done now, get it done now, and there's no relationship between the two people, I'd be like, who are you talking to? Because
I think.
that's not appropriate.
Yeah. It's kind of. I kind of fall somewhere in the middle there. That the expectation, that relationship is the driver to productivity I think sometimes it's overemphasized because I think in some ways what that makes is that this concept, like all of our work, is relational, and it's not. There's hierarchical work and task oriented work and system based work that's not relational, and it does have to get done. And there are individuals that have been empowered to be the individual to make sure that stuff gets done. So it's kind of like it's an interesting discussion because to be told it's I think there's a great sort of discussion around, hey teacher, under what conditions would you tolerate being told what to do? And we can say, good relationship. And they're like, okay, good relationship. What about when there is just a mandate that's handed down to the school and you are expected to do it? Because the counter side is sometimes things don't get done because someone will say, no one told me to do it. It was just sort of vaguely sent out in a, like, there's a lot of stuff that comes out through board memos that it is our job to read it and do it. And then it's our administrator's job, my understanding, to be the walking post-it note. But in some cases, they are also the one where they say cease and desist, stop, go. Right? They are the traffic sign on it. And they're the traffic sign with an empowerment to sort of have either an investigative or a counseling conversation with you. Like that's their management role. So this conversation is fascinating to me because I do think there are times where, yeah, we just need to be told yes, no, stop, go, do it. And I don't think it happens enough because we're really swept up in this relational kind of collaborative work. Like we expect that everything has to be led, has to come from a place of kindness, whereas it can just come from a place of neutrality and matter of fact.
So I agree about the neutrality. I think, for example, when I'm in my caseload meetings and
Hmm.
we're talking about Jimmy,
Hmm.
you know, nobody says, "Roland, you will." They say, "Okay, Jimmy's struggling with this. Roland, can you da 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 da?" Yep. And and so and so, can you follow up this way? And that's not a yes, I'm being instructed on what I should do with Jimmy. But I don't feel like anybody's telling me what to do in a way that is disrespectful. And I'm thinking about my caseload team, and I get along with everybody at the table. Even if I gotta be careful how I say this. I've had meetings with people that I don't particularly like, but in me learning what my role is in that situation, I don't feel slighted, and I don't feel like I don't like that person to tell me what to do. I just feel like, okay, this is the situation. This is my role in the situation. This is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm going to report back. So I get what you're saying. It doesn't always have to be like peaches and cream and red roses. No, but there also has to be like I would think that if my VP asked me to meet with Jimmy over a couple of weeks and asked me to do different things in different ways, and I did none of it, I wouldn't be surprised if I got called into the office and somebody had a difficult conversation with me around what's going on. Like we've talked about your role with Jimmy, but you're not engaging with any of it. Like I would first of all, if that happened, I'd be mortified because I'm like, what did I miss? Because I don't generally walk around not doing my job. You get what I mean? So it's like,
Hmm.
but at that point, I would like to think that there would be some kind of process to if they were led to say to me, Roland, you have to do X, Y, and Z. When are you going to do it? It was supposed to be done last week. So when are you going to do X, Y, and Z? After, some kind of process telling me what I need to do, how I need to do it, who I need to report to. But coming at me from minute one, kind of barking at me, I don't have a lot of tolerance for that. But I do have tolerance for, what you said. It's like when I meet with students for the first time because there's an issue, I don't bark at them. I just say, "Hey, here's the situation. This is what was relayed to me. This is a problem and we need to work on fixing it. So this is what we can do. This is how I can support you." Now, the seventh time I talk to that kid, it's a different story. It's like, yo, I've met with you six times and this is what you agreed to without me forcing you. This is what you said you were going to do and you've done none of it. So like, where are we at now? And what are you even interested in fixing this? Like the sixth conversation is for me is different from the first. And I would like to think because at that point it's like you need to go to class. There's no other option for you. Your attendance is horrible. Everybody knows, everybody's complaining, your parents are pissed, your teachers are pissed. You need to go to class. Like there's no more negotiating here. Those days are over. You decided not to engage with that. And then they look at you and I'm like, "Am I clear that you need to go to class?" They're like, "Yeah." Then they either go or they don't go, but then I pass it on. "Okay, I did what you asked me to do. They're not going to class. So maybe it's time for you to speak to them or for you to call their parents or whatever the case is." But for me to start barking at somebody from day 1, minute 1, I don't believe that's appropriate. Do I need to be nice? Well, it helps. Could I be neutral? Absolutely. But do I need to be so what's the opposite of nice? Because we got nice, neutral, and what's the third option? Bark? That's what I'll call it. I don't want to be barked at the first time. If you've told me to do X, Y, and Z 7 times and I'm not doing it and you come barking at me, to me that's appropriate. But I wonder why I'm not doing what you're asking me to do. Maybe I want you to bark. I don't know. There's all kinds of mind games there. That's just me. And the way this person came at me, and we have a relationship. I know this person. I don't mind them as a human, but at that moment in time, I was like, that's your problem. And I'm happy to help you when I can. Now's not the time. So the answer is no. I told you in my story, I came right back around when I could. I came right back around. I did it professionally and then I reported. I I did engage with what you told me to, and here are your results. Now you do with those what you want because I'm done. It's off my list. I'm moving on to my stuff now. Dude, I find this all of this refreshing at this point in my life. I'm just refreshed. I'm refreshed because um I feel like I go to work and I have the right attitude. I want to help. I want people to be successful. I want to feel good too. I do. I want to be useful. This is how I feel. And so when I go, I try to be those things so that when I leave, I'm like I feel satisfied today. I feel like I did what I could in my role to help people and I feel good like inside of me. This is what I want and this is what I've been getting. Um And maybe that person was having a bad day, but they never came back to me after and said, "You know what? The way I talked to you, that wasn't appropriate." Nobody did anything like that, and they don't need to, but I'm just saying if they did, I would show grace because, in the moment that I was tapped out, they may think that me saying no was completely disrespectful to them. They may feel that way. I don't know. We didn't talk about it. And if they did feel that way, I'd be happy to have a conversation about it. But they may have felt like, "Oh my god, how dare he say no to me? Why is he being rude to me?" Maybe they felt that way, I don't know. There's room for that too, right? How they feel about it? I don't know, maybe they were tapped out too, and it needed to get done, they knew they couldn't do it, so they gave it to me. I don't know, but I know it wasn't my job. I know that, and I'll argue that one to the death. I don't care who comes and tells me, "No, that was your job." No, it wasn't. That was not my job. So it's refreshing to be able to know that I can do that. That's refreshing. I also had a conversation with one of the extracurriculars I do at school. There's a I have a partner in the work that we do, And I told the partner the other day, I don't know if I'm doing this again next year. And they were like, what? I'm like, I don't know if I'm doing this again next year. So I just, I know I don't mean to be disrespectful, but it's April and I'm feeling kind of tapped out with this extracurricular at this time in particular. So I'm just letting you know you may want to start floating it out to other teachers if you believe there's somebody that would be good to do this or you want to work with somebody in particular. They're like, "Well, I don't want you to go." And I'm like, "That's great. Thanks, but I might not be doing this again next year." And I said, "I that's my prerogative. If I don't want to do this extracurricular, I don't do this extracurricular. That's it." You know, I don't want to leave you hanging in September when you're like, "Hey, when are we going to do the first meeting?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not the teacher supervisor for this anymore." So I'm telling you now. And they were like, again, blindsided. What? That's how I'm feeling right now. So I'm telling you, just like when with the texting and the polos have been going back and forth with another situation that I've kind of been dealing with that you know about, and you provided me with excellent friend advice, professional advice. I call it friend advice because you're my friend, but professional advice. Roland, maybe you might not want to do that at this time. And my response to you was, F it, right? It was like I was very my responses are emotional to your logical advice. I get it. I see it. It brought a smile to my face, which is great. I like smiling. So, um, in this, with the extracurricular, I had no problem going right to the F it. Now, in your situation with me, what we were talking about, we have a meeting on Tuesday. So I have simmered down a little bit. I have verbally expressed certain things informally, but this coming week we've got meetings to talk formally, and your advice is starting to sit a little bit better inside of me because I take time to reflect, and when I reflect, that's when I figure out, okay, maybe this isn't the best approach. Maybe I need to talk to this person and repair a situation or apologize or compliment or whatever. I've had time now to reflect. But yeah, that extracurricular, I just looked at the person. I'm like, I don't know if I'm doing this again next year. So you may need to start recruiting a teacher or two to help you with this activity next year. And I don't care how surprised you are. I'm telling you, on April such and such, I told you I may not do this again next year because I don't have to. This is the childish. This is little Roland psychology. This is little Roland talking. I don't have to do any of that stuff if I don't want to. It's not part of my job. That's it. It's a busy week, bro. It was a busy week.
Can I say one last thing on it?
Of course, you can say whatever you want.
I I actually have come to appreciate the boldness, and it's not the right word. It feels like boldness because it hasn't completely settled with me yet. I like the boldness of people telling me exactly what to do.
Give me an example.
Finish your IEPs by this weekend.
Okay.
Like just something, a directive.
How often does that happen like that?
Not often enough for my taste. I appreciate it. And call it bold, but I also have experienced more times than not the frustration of leaving a meeting where that type of bold declaration of what needs to be done next is left way too loose. And you leave the table and you think to yourself, 7 of us at the table, 3 of them have never delivered. Part of the reason they never delivered is because they weren't told exactly what to do. They were left in this negotiable, relational, hospitable frame, and they've completely lost their edge. There is very little, and you got me thinking about this. I think this is also why the drive generally speaking, my experience of educators is that they're happy with their lot. I don't see, as a general rule, educators craving to improve their pedagogy, craving to improve their sort of like academic status, craving to improve their systems understanding. Generally speaking, there isn't a hunger there. They've got the job, they're keeping the teaching, they're doing it well, they're holding the line. But they're not really pushing into that hidden 35%. And there's a lot of reasons why, personal and professional. One of the professional is that the open disregard for leadership and what the leadership represents is one of the problems. If someone in leadership that has been hired into leadership is bold enough to give a directive, I take that as an indicator of I need to achieve that thing, or I need to get my ass moving on that thing, or I need to aspire to be able to do that thing if I don't need to do it. I want to have that relationship with the leaders in my environment. Now, you call it barking. For me, that's an overly emotional or sort of like ego-centered kind of assessment of it. I think that if we can maintain the neutral, then we're just dealing with the facts. You have to get this thing done. The deadline is Friday. The pre-deadline for us to view it was Thursday. You haven't done it, get it done. Somebody has to be the person that can say that directly. And I feel like we're losing these individuals in our system. The reliable voice, the sage experience, the gate, get it done. And my experience in those moments are people sort of lacking a quality of delivery, sure. But I also find the general state of being is that teachers are overly precious about needing people to be too polite with them. I don't believe that the currency for productivity starts with being polite. I think it starts with understanding the importance of the work, the technical aspects of the work, the what will happen if this work does not get done properly and to an nth degree. Somewhere along the way, sure, if the humans have to be the ones to do the reminders, for me, politeness it's not essential. It isn't. I don't start there. And I often am walking away from conversations where I'm like, oh, damn, that was clear. I like that. And someone walking with me, they're like, why were they such a, blank, blank, blank? I'm like, man, that's what your takeaway was? That's what your takeaway was? I said, and I'm thinking to myself, I just found that really clear. I have my top 3 things that I got to take care of. Now I can make a decision as to how that fits into my day. You make it loose with loose follow up, and how are we meeting back up? What's this going to happen? I really don't like that, and I see that as a major flaw in education. It's also why we will tolerate a 3-hour meeting when there was 30 minutes worth of actual necessary discussion. I want to be told what to do. I want to be told what to do from multiple different modes. And I will say, for me, I don't start with, can you say that in a nicer way? I find maybe this is the way I'm built. Maybe this is my experience in hospitality. Part of my experience being that type of rogue work and working out, meeting individuals that have absolutely no sense of their humanity when they come into a restaurant, and they're animals. They don't treat me like an animal, which somebody might, they might misinterpret that. If someone were to come at me as angry, I've never had anyone come at me as angrily as I have. This one dude that his steak was not exactly medium rare. Like I haven't had a parent yet match up to that dude's foul mouth. I had a sense of potential harm coming my way, like he was going to actually take the steak knife and do me harm, to the point where he actually had to be frog stepped out by the owner and he was thrown on the sidewalk. Like I haven't had that moment extreme. But I often, when I'm in meetings and someone has said that person was very nice, I start laughing. I've laughed out loud. And they're like, what? I'm like, that wasn't the point. The point was, we need to move faster. This has to be done. People on the team are not delivering. They're not respecting the timelines. They're not following up. They're not giving the details. They're half-assing it. And I think part of this is there is a diffusion here with the individuals that are the leaders. And it's unclear sometimes what they can actually ask us to do. I don't know how many times I listen to someone like, they're like, can they actually tell us to do that? People not knowing who can tell who what to do is a problem in education. It's rife. And I think part of it is that we're way too reliant on relational leadership. Relationships, relationships, relationships. And where does okay, you're talking about influence, fine. What about power? Power and influence, leadership. The two sort of like kind of like power ups that you have. You have power and you have influence. All we ever talk about is influence. What about the towing the line because the power says this is how it has to be? If the person's an asshole, remove them. We need a mechanism to remove them from being the leadership. If they're misusing the power, but my God, people misuse the influence all the time. All the time. And I get fatigued with it. I walk away kind of giggling. I'm like, that was 30. There's a 3-minute version of that where you could just told us what to do. Shorten the meeting, go. We're meeting back on Friday. Check your schedules. You can't meet, make sure that your docs are in the Google Drive. On we go.
But
I want more of that. I want more of that.
But we see, you said a lot of great things. We see the people who abuse power, nothing, there's no consequence. There's no consequence I've seen for people operating that way, where they should be consequenced, right? You and I have talked about this a number of times over the years, this business of, I know when I was going through the leadership programs in my district, they would talk about courageous conversations all the time.
I don't think they call them those anymore.
I don't know what the new language is.
Yeah, we'll check in with Gary. At least I said that the other day. I don't know if I said it to my spouse or I said
and we're outdated. We're outdated, or what?
Yeah, it's not that anymore.
So whatever the new version of courageous conversations is, they talk about having them and the importance of them, but then in practice, I don't know how many times I've seen where courageous conversations needed to occur that didn't or wouldn't for whatever reason, because the leader didn't want to engage with them or the subordinate didn't want to engage with them. Like I feel like I have them daily with kids, and then
we do.
I try to be. That's why maybe I lean a little bit on the relationship. I lean a little bit on being in what I would define as reasonable when I first meet with somebody, because I have power over them. At least it could be perceived that way because I'm the teacher, they're the student. And I have an issue with these courageous conversations that are always from top down, top down, top down. How come they're never bottom up, bottom up, bottom up? So when a kid comes to me with an issue, I kind of smile because I'm like, oh, they're engaging in a courageous conversation with me. They prepared themselves. They've come to me and now they're saying, hey, Mr. C, I'd like to talk to you about this. And as I'm listening to them, I'm like, this is a courageous conversation for them. And it's from bottom up. And I'm like, this is great, because for me, I see that as a wonderful opportunity to kind of build their capacity there. So I listen to them and then I respond, and I respond in a measured way, meaning, is what they're talking about realistic? Is it achievable? Do they have any like research or evidence to stand on what they're referring to? And most of the time they do, or they're having the courageous conversation because they have a question about a situation and it's valid. And I'm like, hey, I'm glad that you're engaging with this. I hear what you're saying. This is what I can do. This is what I can talk to you about me doing to help you. But there's a lot of layers in what you just shared with me that I have no role in those. So what I can do is we can talk about it, and if you'd like a plan, I can draw something up, and then we can give it back to you and you can do what you want with that. You can execute it or not. But they come to me and they're like, listen, this is what's happening. And you said, or I thought that you were gonna, and I'm like, okay, great. So obviously you feel like something's not happening that should be. And it takes a lot of guts for a kid, for anybody from the bottom up. Because when they talk to us, the way I perceived it in my training around courageous conversations, when I look at them in practice, they always seem to be from top down, top down. But sometimes the people on the bottom have something to say to the people on the top, and either they don't listen, or they don't want to hear it, or they don't make time for it, or they do listen then do nothing about it. And then you think to yourself, well, i'm some I'm not doing that again because it's not worth my time. I'm seeing a lot of that. I'm seeing a lot of that. Things happen and someone says that shouldn't be happening, and I'm like, well, it's happening because we bring it to the attention of the people who can make changes, and they don't make a change, or they don't have a courageous conversation with the people that they need to try to figure out what's going on here. And so then for me, it's about time management, and my time's important to me. So I don't feel like I want to waste it. And if I go deal with this situation, it's a waste because everybody knows what's happening, but they don't do anything about it. So I don't know. I like it when this is kind of a cluffism. I like it when the conversations are from the bottom up, especially when a kid comes to me and comes with a real issue. And they're like, I want to have a courageous conversation with you. I know you're the teacher. I know you're the IEP monitor, but here's the deal. What's going on? You're accountable. How come you're not being accountable? I'm like, let's talk about it. Let me tell you my perspective. And then once it's out there, it's out there, right? Once it's out of the bag, it's out of the bag. So then it's like, I'm going to be calling you on your accountability too. Because if you're
Mhm.
calling me on it, that's awesome. But let's walk away being crystal clear on what's supposed to happen next if you're serious about this. Or if you're just here to shit on me, which you can do if you like. But let's see if there's any teeth to your issue. Because I'll listen to you and I'll help you through it. And if I made a mistake, I like to think that I will admit to my mistake. And now how do we repair that? How do I move forward with you? What do you
Mhm.
want? Right? Like I get it with my e-learn all the time. Hey, Mr. C, I read my assessment. I don't agree with it. You said this and this, but I thought I did this and that. I'm like, okay, well, I could say take a hike. That's your mark. I'm not changing it, but I don't. I'm like, okay, what's the issue? Let's look this over. And there have been times where I said, oh, shoot, you're right. I dropped the ball there. Thanks for bringing it to my attention. This is this is my way of fixing it. What are your thoughts? They're like, that's great. I'm like, awesome. Um, Last year I had a kid who disliked everything I was doing in my e-learn, where they went right to my boss. And my boss was like, no, you need to talk to the teacher first. You can't just be upset not having spoken to the teacher, which I appreciated. And then when the kid came to me, I laid out what I could do, what was in my wheelhouse, what was not in my wheelhouse, and set up a plan and said to the kid, is this satisfactory? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, great, let's keep moving this way. But they were not happy at all. Well, let's talk about it. Anyway, any final words from you, Chris?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. Then we are going to end this now.
I like it. I like the directive.
Um, Rochelle and Gary, thanks for hanging out with us today. It was great to see you. I hope you're well. Hope you have a great weekend. And anybody else listening, thanks for checking us out. You can reach out to us anytime you want. This was season 9, episode 31, number 379, Decoded Podcast. Peace.
Peace, man.